Apostle Paul, known initially as Saul of Tarsus, is regarded as one of the most influential figures in early Christianity. His life story, dramatic conversion, and extensive missionary activities are frequently highlighted in Watchtower publications and Bible-based articles. Below is an in-depth overview of Paul's life and ministry as presented in the teachings and literature of Jehovah's Witnesses. Early life and background. Saul was born in Tarsus, a city in the region of Cilicia, Acts chapter 9 verse 11. Tarsus was a prominent center of education and trade in the Roman Empire. According to the book of Acts, Saul was born a Roman citizen, Acts chapter 22 verses 25 to 28, which later provided him legal protections and privileges during his travels. Being Jewish, Saul described himself as a Hebrew of Hebrews, and a member of the tribe of Benjamin, Philippians chapter 3 verse 5. Raised as a Pharisee, Saul was zealous for the Jewish law, studying under the prominent Rabbi Gamaliel, Acts chapter 22 verse 3. Jehovah's Witnesses emphasize that this strict Pharisaic upbringing shaped Saul's initial hostility toward the emerging Christian congregation. He believed Christians were undermining Jewish worship, so he fought to stamp out their influence. This zealousness is underscored in Acts chapter 8 verses 1 to 3, which describes him as ravaging the congregation by dragging off disciples to prison. Persecutor turned disciple. Saul's life dramatically changed on the road to Damascus, where he intended to arrest Christians. According to Acts chapter 9 verses 3 to 7, a bright light from heaven enveloped him, and he heard Jesus' voice asking, "Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me?" Blinded by the intensity of the light, he was led into Damascus. 3 days later, a disciple named Ananias, obeying divine direction, laid hands on Saul and restored his sight. Acts chapter 9 verse 17, 18. Saul was then baptized and began to preach about the risen Christ. Jehovah's Witnesses often highlight this account to illustrate how divine intervention can transform even those who are staunchly opposed to the truth. Change of name and commission. The scriptures record that Saul later became more widely known by his Roman name, Paul, Acts chapter 13 verse 9. This name shift is sometimes viewed in Watchtower writings as symbolic of his new focus, preaching chiefly to the Gentiles rather than staying within the confines of Jewish circles. Jehovah's Witnesses often underscore that Paul's Roman citizenship and name may have aided his ministry in predominantly Gentile regions. Missionary journeys and congregation building. Over time, Paul embarked on multiple missionary tours. In Jehovah's Witness teaching, the Book of Acts is often studied carefully to follow each leg of Paul's travels and the congregations he helped to establish. Key highlights include: First missionary journey, Acts 13 to 14. Paul traveled with Barnabas to Cyprus and parts of Asia Minor, preaching in synagogues and witnessing to Gentiles. Jerusalem Council, Acts 15. Paul returned to Jerusalem to help settle debates on Gentile believers and the Mosaic Law. Jehovah's Witnesses emphasize that this meeting established a principle of unity and organizational structure, which they believe is still relevant to Christian congregations today. Second and third missionary journeys, Acts chapter 15 verse 36-21 to 17. Paul traveled through places like Macedonia, Athens, Corinth, and Ephesus, strengthening newly formed congregations. These tours provide a foundation for many of his letters, in which he addressed issues such as moral conduct, Christian love, unity, and faithfulness. Letters and doctrinal contributions. Jehovah's Witnesses hold that Paul wrote 14 letters, including Hebrews, whose authorship is traditionally attributed to him by many, which form a substantial portion of the Christian Greek scriptures. These inspired letters focus on themes such as faith, endurance, the importance of Christian unity, and love. Romans lays out the relationship between law and faith. 1 and 2 Corinthians provides counsel on congregational unity, spiritual gifts, and moral purity. Galatians defends Christian freedom from the Mosaic Law. Ephesians and Colossians focus on Christian conduct and the headship of Christ. Philippians stresses joy and contentment under any circumstances. Hebrews, attributed to Paul by many, highlights Jesus' role as high priest and mediator of a better covenant. Jehovah's Witnesses regularly draw on Paul's writings to teach about the ransom sacrifice of Jesus, principles for Christian living, and the structure of Christian congregations. They view Paul's example of humility and reliance on God's Spirit as instructive for modern-day believers. Trials imprisonments, and perseverance. Paul endured numerous hardships, beatings, imprisonments, and even shipwreck. While imprisoned in Rome, he wrote letters such as Ephesians, Philippians, Colossians, and Philemon, commonly known as the prison letters. Jehovah's Witnesses cite Paul's unwavering commitment to his ministry as an example of Christian endurance. Despite chains, Paul never stopped preaching and teaching. He continued to encourage fellow believers through letter writing, personal counsel, and prayer. Please share and like and please subscribe.